Hi, friends. So, I don't want to ignore the AI conversation, but I also just want to talk about the movie. We're going to do both, but if you want to skip the AI talk, I'm going to keep it all here in this section, and there are timestamps in the description below. If you're sticking with me though, I always think it's important to do your own research and form your own opinion. I added links to a few TikToks from creators that talk about the use of AI in this movie. If you want to know my opinion on AI in film, I think Jay Stubbs' video was really helpful to me in the conversation. I think AI can be helpful for tedious or difficult work. I don't think generative AI, which is what was used in this film, should be used at all because to my understanding, it's trained on stolen artwork. And on top of that, it's eliminating jobs. Of course, I didn't save it, but I saw a TikTok where an artist recreated that skeleton cutaway image that's used in the movie, and not only was it so much better, but it also could have been an amazing job opportunity. Wrapping this up really quick, I'm kind of up in the air in regard to this movie specifically because there was a lot put into this movie all around, which is no excuse. At the same time, I think it's hard to say it's just a few AI images, what's the big deal? Because I'm concerned that the use of generative AI is going to be normalized by audiences and aggressively used more and more by studios. I didn't want this section to get too long, but hopefully you catch my drift. And if you want to talk about this more, whether you agree or not, we can totally continue the conversation in the comment section on YouTube. Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back. It's your movie buddy here, ready to talk about the latest movie I watched. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or follower or a new face, I am thrilled to have you here. If you're looking for all the story details and what exactly happened in this movie, you're not going to find it here. You can expect spoiler-free reviews and my honest thoughts about the latest film I watched in theaters or maybe one I streamed at home. You can catch weekly releases dropping every Friday. Have a movie in mind that you want me to talk about? Hop into my DMs on Instagram, drop a comment on YouTube, or let me know on the podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and follow along on Instagram so you don't miss out on what I'm up to and what's coming up next. As always, any TikToks or articles I've mentioned in today's episode will be linked in this episode's description. With that all out of the way, grab your popcorn, hit that subscribe button and that follow button, and let's get into today's episode on Late Night with the Devil. Jack Delroy hosts a syndicated talk show, Night Owls, that has long been a trusted companion to insomniacs around the country. However, ratings for the show have plummeted since the tragic death of Jack's beloved wife. Desperate to turn his fortunes around, on October 31st, 1977, Jack plans a Halloween special like no other, unaware he's about to unleash evil into the living rooms of America. I usually follow an outline for my episodes, but Late Night with the Devil warrants a little bit of a detour from the usual. We have to talk about how immersive this movie is. I will say that there is always a special type of immersive experience with the found footage subgenre. From the start, there's a real vintage look and feel to the movie. The audio quality is muffled or occasionally static, the ratio changes, and the quality of the picture isn't modern, for the most part. There's also a deliberate choice of muted colors and grainy textures. All of these elements combine to contribute to the authenticity and 70s atmosphere. So we talked about the look. We know the aesthetic of Late Night with the Devil is undeniably refreshing, rich, and exciting, but what about the narrative? Despite what I've seen in the trailers and posters, I was really surprised at the real-life elements that were woven into the story and how seamlessly they worked. Additionally, I really enjoyed the conflict between characters, each steadfast in their conviction. This provided a really interesting dynamic. These differing beliefs are compelling to see unfold. It's interesting to navigate who's right, who's wrong, what we believe is happening, and it's also just as interesting to sit back and watch the story play out. The resulting tension is palpable throughout the film, punctuated by moments that'll leave you with questions. The abrupt transitions marked by cutaway cards add a layer of unexpected humor, juxtaposed against the seriousness of the narrative. The narrative expertly navigates the tension of the conflict and what's unfolding with the relaxing humor of a talk show, making you wonder when Late Night with the Devil would finally boil over. Speaking of what I think really works for this movie, the practical effects. If you've been around for a while, then you know that I love practical effects, especially when it comes to that vintage old school gore aesthetic. because there's a look to it that it's so nostalgic, and honestly, it's pretty gross. I was pleasantly surprised with what Late Night with the Devil delivered. Furthermore, I do also want to comment on the special effects. I thought they were pretty good. They don't look out of place with the 70s era setting, and visually they blend in well with the practical effects, really just enhancing the overall vibe of the film. Together, both the practical and special effects contribute significantly to the impact of the film and align perfectly with the story's tone and visual style. Moving on to the acting, the ensemble cast of Late Night with the Devil delivers standout performances across the board. Everyone really embodies their roles, bringing a sense of believability and authenticity to the characters. While some characters may lean toward being over the top or having a flair to them, they all feel organic, further grounding the film in reality. Of course, we have to talk about David Dastmalchian with his portrayal of Jack Delroy. His performance as the leading character is nothing short of exceptional, and he effortlessly brings Jack to life. He infuses the role with believability, the charisma and personality of a talk show host, and that desperation. As the heart of the film, Dastmalchian's portrayal captivates the audience with his range and nuance, truly cementing his place not only as a standout in this film, but a standout lead. Now, let's wrap up with my final thoughts on the movie. After talking about the aesthetic, acting, practical effects, and more, the real question remains: is it worth your time? Let's lay it all on the table. I genuinely enjoyed Late Night with the Devil. It stands out, it's unique, it's immersive, it's interesting, and then it gets even more interesting. The movie is set mostly in a studio, which really just enhances the performances, characters, and storyline. I do think the initial story can feel familiar. It really does a lot, though, to establish the film's aesthetic and style. The stage is set, and then the narrative goes off the rails in a way that I was not expecting, adding layers of intrigue and depth, making me love the movie even more. As usual, I took a look at negative reviews, and a lot of them were just people that didn't like the movie or thought it was boring, which is totally valid. Some people didn't like the found footage style or found the presentation unrealistic, particularly regarding the footage's discovery. I think if these elements don't align with your taste, or if you're not a fan of the 70s setting, then I would consider skipping this movie. However, as a fan of the genre, a little gore, and maybe some conspiracy theories, I found a lot to appreciate. The attention to detail, seamless integration of special effects, and fantastic performances contributed to an immersive experience. I also loved the little images that popped up throughout. They were very blink and you'll miss it faces that had me thinking I was tripping. At one point in the movie, I was wondering what was going to happen next. Where was the story going? Because I felt like everything we'd seen up to that point was pretty intense. What else could happen? Yeah, that was when the movie really went into overdrive. Have you had the chance to watch Late Night with the Devil yet? If you haven't watched it yet, what's holding you back? Not your cup of tea, not your genre? Is it the AI? I'm curious to hear your thoughts after today's episode. And if you've already watched it, I want to know your take. What did you think about it? Share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions. I am all ears. In conclusion, Late Night with the Devil is excellent. The use of AI in Disney Marvel's Secret Invasion was unnecessary and insulting then, and it's unnecessary and insulting here now in this movie. This is a decision that detracts from the movie's overall impact, and I wish the creators took the time, which I honestly don't think would have been much, to find an artist to create these simple yet prominent images. The use of AI really tarnishes this amazing film, and I can absolutely see why people would opt out of watching this movie altogether. I know I said I wouldn't talk about AI past the intro, I'm sorry. This major flaw and some smaller flaws aside, Late Night with the Devil offers a really interesting viewing experience. If you are wondering about the scaries, this movie is not scary. It's not going to deliver in the way you would expect a horror film to. The movie does a fantastic job of building up the suspense and that uneasy feeling, leaning toward the shock of a moment or dread rather than outright jump scares. I think I jumped maybe for a loud noise or two, but nothing that was really scary. The combination of its unique aesthetic, found footage style, religious themes, and unsettling atmosphere may not appeal to everyone, but Late Night with the Devil definitely leaves an impression and prompts viewers to wonder what happened after the credits rolled. All right, movie fans, that wraps up another episode. If you're enjoying this episode on the podcast, a huge thank you for tuning in. For our YouTube viewers, you'll find a link to the podcast in the description below. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you like it. As always, thanks a million for joining me today, friends. Your support truly means the world to me. And remember, the movie talk doesn't stop, so tune in every Friday for fresh episodes. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, follow on Spotify for on-the-go listening, and join the fun over on Instagram for behind-the-scenes sneak peeks and more shenanigans. The next movie I have tickets for is Monkey Man. This movie looks gritty, it looks brutal, and I have been waiting to get into a good action flick, and this one looks really promising. I did finally get tickets for Godzilla x Kong for when I come back from vacation. That is the last movie I have tickets for, so moving on to the updates. It was a busy weekend. My honey and I watched Ghostbusters on Friday, Immaculate on Saturday, and Late Night with the Devil on Sunday. It was a lot of popcorn. I do have to say though, my mental health has been up and down, mostly down this week, so I just decided to focus on one movie and take things slow. But I will be posting my thoughts on Ghostbusters and Immaculate next week. The podcast exclusive for Stop Motion is still planned for April, so make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss that one. Last week, I shared my thoughts on Imaginary. If you missed that episode, please be sure to catch that one on the podcast, and if you're on YouTube, you can click the top right corner of the video. I also shared my thoughts on Damsel last week. If you missed out on that episode, you can listen to it exclusively on the podcast. You can find a link in the description below if you're watching today's episode on YouTube. Your feedback on those reviews would be awesome too. As always, I am looking forward to you all joining me on YouTube, Instagram, and of course the podcast. Don't forget to tune in on Spotify for those exclusive episodes. Your presence and engagement truly make a difference, and it really means so much to me. I value your feedback, it enriches our little community and makes it a fun place to be. Share your thoughts in the YouTube comment section or hop over to Spotify for our Q&A and polls. Whether you're following on YouTube, Spotify, or Instagram at a.rocket.review, I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Until next time, spread positivity, be safe, take care of yourself, and happy movie watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!